Right, there you have it. Reflections, wheelie bin, camera, and me. Good morning. Where do we even start? So, small job today, but it involves nipples. I suddenly see ears prick up. Yeah, nipples. This thing still has nipples. That's grease nipples. I've got no idea exactly where, but they are obviously on the front on the suspension parts. They may be on other moving parts, but I'll figure that one out as soon as I've taken hold of the manuals that I was gifted in the US, and once I've got the manuals out, I'll see exactly where those are, what the kind of, I suppose the times between and time frames are that you need to use for greasing, but I always like greasing whenever I can. It's one of those things, I can't imagine more lubrication being bad for a vehicle. So today, definitely get this thing up on the ramps or on the axle stands, whichever, and get it greased up. That's one more little job, and then one of the big jobs left will be to drop all of the fluids, replace the coolant, replace the oils, change the filters, etc. Nice sunny day. It's a bit earlier in the day than what I normally start working. Today, quick bit of research. I just realized I didn't bring back my lubrication chart, but the idea is to lubricate the suspension parts on this thing, all the moving parts today. It's another job that people oversee and don't always do, and ultimately, if you don't lubricate, it's going to wear parts sooner, and when you go for an MOT, all you need is for a tester to be jerking around on stuff and going clonk, 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 and knowing that your vehicle fails because you've got worn suspension parts, which ultimately I suppose can be dangerous as well as kind of just failing your test. So yeah, let's have a quick crawl around and see what I need to do to lift this thing, keeping in mind that it's been lowered. It was professionally lowered years and years ago. So that's today's job. Boom, boom. See if we can get that jack in underneath there. That's the first failure. My snap-on jack, which is the lowest one I've got, won't go under because the lowering is such that the bottom lip is even lower. So I'm going to find a couple of pieces of wood, just roll the front wheels onto it, and that'll probably give me a couple of inches extra lift, and then I'll be able to get this thing in. This is why you keep offcuts of wood when you do work. Keep them on standby. At some point you'll need them. pull it back 1/2 inch. Why? Because it would feel better. Couple of axle stands just for good luck. Right, these are my big guys, but they live down the alleyway in the hedge along with another set of ramps. Two settings are just one where the exhaust comes out, the silencer is sat across the chassis, and the next setting is right at the front on the lower control arm mounting point. Looking at what I can see there, the grease is quite hard and dry. I'm not sure when last this thing had a grease gun to it, but maybe that's a good thing for today. So clean up most of the muck first, just clean all the points and then grease it up. But I'll be back in a minute. I'm going to turn the camera off for a few minutes while I mess around and just lie around on the floor for a while. Doesn't look bad, but if you look at the grease, actually when you touch it, it's rock hard. All of these points have been maintained at some point. There's a variety of them. I think there's about 12 all over the place that need lubricating up front. There's probably one on or two on the prop shaft as well, right back. But for the moment, I'm quite pleased with what I've got here. Again, looking at the underside, you look at the amount of surface rust. Often with these vehicles in other states and in the US especially, they start rotting really, really badly. This one, you look at the underside, other than that little dent on the sill edge, there's no damage, no rust. It's clearly had a really, really good life, this vehicle, and I'm always thankful for that. Interesting connection there. On the exhaust, I will have to deal with that sometime. You can see there's a blow there, and just go through the whole system. That's obviously stainless steel, with a bit of mild steel connecting, so that needs a repair at some point when I'm in the mood. The other side, similar. You've got mild steel that was welded onto stainless. I guess as long as it works, it's not a problem. But that blow that's up here, you can see, I think that needs to be dealt with sometime. But you look at the sump, even the sump still has half of its factory cover paint on it as well. So, as pleased as hell, as far as this is concerned, I'm going to get a rag and wipe all this down first, clean it nicely with some petrol or spirit or something, maybe white spirit, which is like a turpentine replacement in the UK. Once everything is clean, I'll go and get a grease gun with a new tube of grease. There might even be a tube of grease in there from a previous van or vehicle. Grease up this lot, and that's another little job in the pocket. Next job, clean up all the grease points, get all the hard old grease off, just clean it up. Then at least all those points are clean, number one, and number two, more importantly, I can get in there with a grease gun and get it really tidy. Hopefully that will be an easy job. I'm hoping. I'm not even wearing gloves. You end up just tearing the gloves and making a mess of them. I never used to wear gloves, but they are nice sometimes. Start with top control arm. That's kind of one of the first places to really start, because simply it's open and accessible. There's not a lot of grease on this, interestingly. I think this whole vehicle has been very dry in its use. There's no mud, sort of lumps and cakes of mud that you see on vehicles, or little islands of sand from road debris. Down we go. Not impressive. Very black, very dark. But it also looks like this may have had new parts fitted at some point, because if these are the originals, I'll be quite surprised, because they look very tidy and clean. Really do not look used at all. They look very much like replacement parts, but I could be wrong. Greasing sheet that I got off the book that Tony gave me, those very rare GM manuals. That has a page on lubrication, so hopefully the lubrication page will give me all the points. You can see there are points up and down the drivetrain. I think I've touched on all of these and all of these. It's the ones up and down the drive shaft, including parking brake linkage, things like that need lubrication. I'm not sure how, but we'll have a look. Right, I can't see any grease nipples on the parking brake cables, so I'm assuming they get some kind of a liquid lubricant. I will research that and do it. There's no grease nipples or greasing points on the universal joints either. Saying that, there's a little bit of spray on the underside of the body, but who knows what that's from. Two of my best tools: flexible grease gun hose, and obviously this guy. Now it's going to have to go around corners because some of the greasing points are actually at the top down on the steering parts. I also need to check what grease is in here, so I cannot recall what the last grease was that I fitted, or not fitted but put in into this thing. That looks like regular, so that should be all right. Right. K48 moly grease. So there's all sorts of clever stuff in there. I would say that that's probably all I need right now. That and to refit this bloody thing. Ah, you Luxon. Probably why I don't wear it. This t-shirt's kind of been sacrificed, so all the extra grease can go on there. Just wipe this down as well a bit more. So now there's grease everywhere. Ah, for fuck's sake. Now there's grease even more places. Grease is the word. We'll start with the top of the control arms. Just get that steering unlocked. Awkward. It's just awkward getting that top one in and getting it to stay stuck. But I think that's done, top and bottom of the control arms. think that's the greasing and lubrication done. Kind of pleased about that. It's done, it's out the way, and it certainly was needed. There's a couple of those joints that were quite dry and took a lot of grease before they actually started pouring out the edges again. So yeah, good thing it's done. Always pleased. Oh yes, the camera's moved, hasn't it? You couldn't see me crawling around there like a frog. Anyway, there you go. So I'm not sure how much you're going to be able to see before I turn this off, but basically kind of all the grease points are now filled, and you can see overflowing with grease as it should. It's come past up to the point where everything was filled up and tidy. So yeah, pleased about that. Small job, but a really important job, because sloppy steering, shitty steering, MOT fail type steering is no good, because it costs you money and time. So when you've got a chance to do things like this, you just get on with them, do them. Bit of swearing, but it all makes you feel better at the end of the day, because actually, you know what, makes this car a whole lot more fun to drive. So that's it for now. Time to drop it, put it back on the floor, move it out, put the truck back where this was, because this is down the bottom by the garage, and I put the truck in the street while I was working. So that's it for now.